Hello and good evening, everyone. Let's do a quick sound check. Let me know if I'm audible. Okay, thank you, Shweta. Thank you, Utkarsh. Thank you, guys. All right, so let's start with today's session. So it's not going to be very long, but it's not going to be very short either today. We are going to be discussing the WAT or the written ability test, which is actually going to be a part of your interview process, your GDPI process in several different colleges. So we are going to be discussing how to write a VAT and what exactly you can expect as a bad topic, what are good practices, what are bad practices, and then we will actually talk about say um, one particular example to discuss how to go about writing a VAT. Okay, so what is VAT? VAT is a written ability test, which is basically going to be an essay writing component inside your selection process. And so historically, till last year, all of the IIMs had definitely a VAT component followed by a personal interview component. And apart from that, every other private college also invariably almost all of them had a WAT component to it, right? So you are supposed to write an essay on a topic, and then you will have weightage for that. That particular essay will be present with the panel of interviewers when they are conducting your personal interview, and you might get questions from the VAT that you have written as well. Plus, there are scores for VAT that you will get as well, right? So if you have a VAT PI call for any of the colleges, including IIMs, then there is some score for VAT, then and there is some score for the personal interview as well. So it's important for us to do well in the VAT, and that can sometimes save us from actually not getting a call or failing to secure a call. Of course, a personal interview's weightage is going to be much more higher than a WAT's weightage, but if you write a really good VAT, it gives you a cushion, right? If you mess up in the personal interview a couple of times, you give a couple of incorrect answers or something is not exactly convincing, because of which you lose a few points in the personal interviews, then what might happen is that if you score well in the VAT, it can cushion that blow. It can help you make up for that deficit inside a personal interview. So GD or not, I don't know, Utkarsh. I don't even know whether the colleges are going to have VAT this year or not. But still, we are actually conducting this, and I'll tell you why. GD, if any college confirms, then we will think about conducting it. Okay. Now, whether VAT is going to happen this year or not, that is completely subjective to colleges. So IMA has already said that there is going to be an AWT component, right? Similarly, SPJN has also confirmed that a VAT is going to be held. Great Lakes is right now conducting, say, VAT for its process of admissions. IMB has also confirmed that there's going to be a VAT, right? So because VAT is say present in so many different colleges, XLR and MDI paths, you have to wait for say what they have and they don't. But I'll still tell you that it is important for us to attend all the VAT classes and know exactly how to write, because VAT is not something that you can develop overnight, the capability of writing good VATs. And apart from that, the VAT sessions are also going to be your current affairs sessions in disguise. Why are these current affairs sessions? So let me first discuss what are VAT topics. Right? So what kind of topics do you get inside the VAT section of your interview process? So VAT topics are generally speaking going to be topics in which current affairs will be subtly wrapped in. So I'll give you an example. Okay, so for 2018 SIAM Code interview, the VAT that I had received at that point of time was, should the government get involved in the say in decisions about religious religious places and religious organizations? Should the government dictate the workings or functions of religious organizations or not? And that VAT, basically, although it was a general topic, was actually a subtle pointer towards the which issue. Can someone tell me which issue is this VAT about? Absolutely right, Anupam. It is about the Sabrimala. No, Vicky, Ram Mandir is this year, but that was a Sabrimala temple issue, right? So basically, the VAT was about whether you agree with the Supreme Court's verdict regarding Sabrimala's issue and whether them interfering with how a particular temple should actually function or not. That is what was actually asked in the form of a VAT. Also, absolutely correct, Ananta. About a year back, the triple talaq bill was also passed. So both these was actually what the VAT was pointing towards. So it is basically asking you about opinions, your own personal opinions about say current affairs topics. And if you don't have a good enough knowledge about current affairs, then writing a VAT can become slightly tricky. So that's why we are going to consider these VAT sessions not just as how to write an essay, but we are also going to discuss what all topics and pointers need to be present inside your written ability test essay, which is going to contribute towards your understanding of current affairs. And of course, current affairs is going to be an integral component of any B Schools interview. So these sessions are going to be extremely important. So never miss them. We will start conducting them from this say weekend on. Okay. So now I told you that VAT topics are mostly going to be current affairs based. It might not have the current affairs topics in it directly, but if you have current affairs examples which are in relation with what has been asked in the topic in the VAT, then that is going to help you answer the questions or say write the particular essay better. What else can be VAT topics? VAT topics can be proverbs, right? It can be abstract topics like say a stitch in time saves nine. Several times XLRA gives this kind of a topic for the GD. If they say want to conduct a VAT, then they can actually give you a topic like that. We have got topics which have been absolutely abstract. Nitty once gave a topic red. That was a topic red. You have to write a VAT on red, right? What else? What else can be the topic? It can be self-awareness topics. SP Jain gives self-awareness questions. Even Cori Code actually gives several times self-awareness questions like write about a particular incident where your teammate and you disagreed, and how did you deal with that particular situation inside a project. So so basic self-awareness type of questions can also be present inside the written ability test. So the topic can be anything possible, but generally speaking, the topics will be current affairs related. 90% of the time your VAT topics is going to be related to current affairs, okay? Or it's going to be a current affairs topic wrapped in a general topic package, right? So these are the say VAT topics you can actually expect, and we'll practice all of these different types of topics in our VAT exercises that say we are going to conduct, okay? Now let's move on and let's understand how to write a VAT, right? What are you expected to write within a VAT? So generally speaking, the time given to students to write a VAT is between 15 to 20 minutes. When it used to happen physically, it was 15 for most of the CAP calls, and I'm Kozhikode and a few other colleges. I'm Bangalore Indore used to give 20 minutes. I am Ahmedabad gives about 30-35 minutes to write the AWT. So it depends upon the college, varies from college to college. But what we are going to consider is we are going to consider while writing the VAT a total duration of 15 to 20 minutes and see how well we can do justice to a topic in these 15 to 20 minutes, right? So what you're supposed to do as soon as you get a VAT topic and you're given 15 to 20 minutes on the clock is that you have to remember that you cannot overshoot the time limit. So within these 15 to 20 minutes, you have to finish the essay. I'm coming to everything, Utkarsh. So you have to finish the essay. You have to start and you have to end. Don't keep on writing a story thinking that you have got an infinite supply of time, right? So you have to manage your time very well. So how do you manage your time? So first thing that you have to do while you are actually say given the topic of a VAT is don't start writing immediately. Take 1.5 to 2 minutes at least to read the topic, understand the topic properly, think about the topic, think about every point that you can write regarding the topic and jot it down, okay? So generally speaking, when it was a physical say WAT process, then you can actually make a small section inside a paper and then say denote it as rough work, and you can do the rough work there. If this year you have to do it completely on your screen on the laptop, it is still okay to type down your points that you want to make inside the WAT at the very top, right? And then say think about everything that you can write within the essay, take stock of all your points and then jot it down at one place, and then sit and structure the essay. Structure and think about how you're going to start, which point you're going to put after what, and how you're going to conclude, right? So the first 2 to 3 minutes are going to be extremely important, right? Second thing that we have to remember before we start writing a VAT is that a VAT is generally going to be like a debate topic. So in a debate topic, you have to pick sides. You can write either for the topic or you can write against the topic. Now, which is going to be your stance? Is the for side going to be your stance, or is the against side going to be a stance, or is it necessary for you to take one stance? So for that, I will say that the general rule of thumb is you should have a predominant stance. You cannot or you should not be equivocating between for and against. You can't say that this is also right, that is also right, because that kind of betrays a lack of spine. What they want to see also through your WAT writing, your WAT essay, is that how well you can take a stance and defend it, whether you have the ability to stand up for what you believe in, and whether you have the facts and substance to back it up or not, right? So which means that what you should do is as soon as you get a VAT topic, try to think about both the for side as well as the against side. Jot down points with respect to both for as well as against the topic, and see that which one has got more weightage. Do you have more points to write for the topic, or do you have more points to write against the topic? So you have to decide on your stance at the very beginning, right? So decide on your stance, decide stance, jot down points. So these two, and structure the essay, right? Structure how you are going to, how your thoughts are going to flow from beginning to end before you start writing in the first 2 minutes. Okay. You can take 2.5, 3 minutes also, because it doesn't take very long to finish writing this entire essay, right? So this, if you do it for the first 2 minutes, then start writing. Okay. Now, how do you write? What do you need to keep in mind while you're writing the VAT? So first, of course, you have to introduce the topic. So when you are giving an introduction to the topic, try to define the topic once again in detail. Okay, if it's a one-line topic, try to define exactly what the topic is actually wanting you to take a stance on in, say, 1 or 2 sentences, right? So do that. And while you're doing that, what all you can do is, if there are, say, certain words which are actually present inside the topic, you can actually define the meaning of that word, those, say, particular words, and then using the definition of those words, you can say that this is what is a topic and this is what we are supposed to write about. And what I would also suggest is that in the intro itself, try to make your stance clear. So make your stance clear within your introduction itself. So why I'm asking you to do this? So I'm asking you to do this because let's understand our audience who are going to evaluate our VAT. Okay. Now VAT scores will be noted down only after the entire interview process of a day is over. So if, say, today's interview process is over, which is going to happen late in the evening, right? 5 or 6 p.m. or say maybe even later than that, sometimes personal interviews goes. So after all the personal interviews are over, maybe some professor, maybe some student or senior from the adcom is going to sit and read your VAT, and then they're going to mark it. And if I consider an entire day of personal interviews, some of the colleges will conduct hundreds and hundreds of interviews in, say, one single day, which means there will be hundreds and hundreds of VAT to evaluate at the end of each day, and they will want to get this work done as quickly as possible, right? So no one has the time to sit and read each and every word of yours to make sure that what your stance is and whether you have got relevant points or not. So if the VAT becomes easy to read and it becomes easy to understand what your stance is and what you're trying to defend at the very beginning of the essay, then it makes the job of the person who is reading the VAT easier. And everyone likes an easy job. So if you make the person who's reading your VAT and evaluating your VAT their life easier, then that is going to hold you in good stead, probably give you a good score in the WAT. Also, the panel of interviewers, as I said, is going to have your WAT in front of them, right? So if they want to have a glance at the VAT, they should at least have a glance and immediately be able to understand what stance you have taken so that they can ask you questions with respect to that. Right? So please make your stance clear at the very first paragraph. So introduction, define the topic. If there are certain words inside the topic that require a definition, then please say define the meanings of those words, and then take a stance and say that I believe this and this to be true, or I do not consider this to be true, or I do not believe that this particular approach is going to work, right? So make the first paragraph itself absolutely clear what your stance with respect to the topic is going to be, right? Then comes your body. So if it is a proper debate topic, right, where you are taking a stance for or against a topic, and suppose, say, I'm taking a stance for the topic, then say I've got 4 points to say why I support the topic that has been given to us in this say a WAT exercise. Then make sure you're segregating each and every point into a separate paragraphs. So multiple paragraphs in the body is actually suggested. So why I'm asking you to segregate it into multiple paragraphs is once again because as soon as every different point comes out in a new paragraph, it again becomes very simple for anyone who's glancing through your VAT to immediately understand what all points you've made and how many different points you have. Right? So try to segregate your body into some multiple paragraphs. If you can't segregate your, say, sense of an argument in different points, then okay, you can still write the body completely in one single paragraph. That is absolutely fine. But what the body is for is to substantiating and defending your stance. This is where the content of the VAT is. That you have to say that I have taken up this stance. I believe this to be true because of these reasons. This is my justification for my stance. So this becomes the most significant part of a WAT. Right? So either multiple paragraphs or not, that completely depends upon the topic and the nature of points that you have. But make sure that you are properly defending your stance and you have got concrete points to prove that why your stance makes sense. Right? Finally, are bullet points frowned upon? Absolutely. No bullet points whatsoever, Ashish, because what you're also tested on in a WAT is your ability for like towards a written communication. How well you can actually draft essays. Several of your say B school examinations are going to be about writing a lot of stories. So whether you are being able to communicate your points in a crystal clear format, in an essay format or not, is a big part of WAT. So never ever put bullet points inside the that. Okay. All right. Moving on. Last paragraph, of course, is going to be the conclusion. I'm coming to that, Shirajit. So, conclusion, what are you supposed to do inside the conclusion? Conclusion, of course, it can be a very generic conclusions. It is because of the aforesaid reasons that I believe, again, you say, restate the topic in one sentence and say that this is true. Or again, you restate your opinion. So that is why I believe that this particular approach towards solving this issue is not going to work. It can be a one line, one sentence, or a couple of sentence conclusion. But if you want to make the conclusion also a bit juicier, what you can do is here you can take the counter stance. Okay. So you can actually concede a few points to the counter stance in the conclusion. You can say that although I say think that this particular part of the argument is true, but I can say that in certain cases, the say counterpoint also has got valid justifications. So then you can take a few pointers that you had noted down regarding the counterpoint also, and you can state them saying that there are certain merits to the counterpoint as well. But despite that, I believe that this particular stance that I taken in the body is stronger and makes more sense. So conclusion, you can actually deal with both sides. You can look at the other side of the argument also. So this is what you're actually expected to do inside your WAT. This is how the structure of the WAT is going to be present. Now, what is the word limit? How many words are you supposed to write? I'd say there is no hard and fast word limit that is like something should be present, but at least 200 words is actually expected. If you write anything less than 200 words, it will be too short, and the person who's looking at a WAT will definitely feel that this person does not know much about the topic. So it betrays a lack of knowledge. Anyone who has got a good amount of content and substance should be able to write at least 200 words. Ideally, I would say a good VAT length is 300 to 3 or 300 to 400 words. It's a great VAT length. Anything longer than 450 words is going to be too long, and it's going to be not something that anyone wants to read and sit and mark. Okay, give you scores for. So 450, keep it as the say um, maximum number of words that you want to write, or you should be writing. But 300 to 400 words, if you write, then that is going to be perfect. Even if it is slightly less than 300 words, which I think you can easily write inside the 15 to 20 minutes given. Even if it is 15 minutes, in 10 minutes, you can actually draft an essay of about 300 words. So if it is 250 to 300, it's fine. If it's 300 and above, it's great. 400 and above, try to shorten it down to something shorter. Expected of you inside your WAT. Now, what are you actually scored on? So you're scored on multiple different things. First thing, number one thing that you're actually scored on is how relevant is your content with respect to the topic. Right? So your content is going to be king. That whether your points make sense, they are in keeping with whatever the VAT has asked, and whether you have made your arguments coherently. So content and coherence, and whether your this thing makes say your structure makes sense or not, that is going to be extremely important. No, Ruben, no need to mention word count and all. Okay, you won't have the time to do that. Okay. So content and coherence, how well your thought flows, and whether your content makes sense with respect to whatever has been asked. Okay. Next thing that is going to be tested in several the current affairs topic is knowledge is going to be something that they will look at. How many data points, how many statistics, how many current affairs based knowledge can you actually portray in your VAT is also going to have a huge impact on your scores, right? So that is why knowing current affairs is important. After this comes the rest. After this comes what? After this comes your language. So how good language are you using? Like, is it, if it is very, very well written, if it is say publishable inside a newspaper, inside a non-newspaper or a blog, then it's great. So language is going to be tested, but at the same time, once again, the same suggestion that I gave in the statement of purpose class also. I will give it again this year. That don't try to be William Shakespeare or William Wordsworth inside your VAT. Try to keep the language simple. Try to keep the language absolutely professional. Okay, no colloquial terms, no vernacular languages inside the VAT. Okay, absolutely professional language. The simpler, the better. Again, don't make the person who is actually evaluating your VAT run to the dictionary to find out exactly what you have written. Okay? So don't try to be too fancy. Don't try to be dramatical either. Right? Yeah, ninth grade English is best. Is the VAT online this year? Yes, the colleges are conducting VATs this year. Does handwriting matter? Yes, I will come to that, Shirajit. So the thing is that so that is why you have to practice. If your typing is slow, that's why we are actually going to keep these VAT classes for you to practice, and we'll tell you exactly what to do. Okay. Does handwriting matter, Shirajit? I would say that when it was in a physical environment, handwriting used to matter a lot. So many times we actually used to give feedback to students that if you write a VAT as if it has been scribbled in, say, Hebrew or some other script, then you are going to get zero. So then we actually suggest students that if it is a written VAT, physically written VAT, then make sure that you write a bit slower, even if you have to take a hit on the word limit. Make sure that whatever you're writing is legible. Since this year it is online, yeah, it is good news for some, it is actually bad news for others. Since it is online this year, you don't have to worry about it, but of course we don't know, some colleges might still conduct physical say interview selection process. So if that happens, make sure that what you're writing is legible. Even if your handwriting is very bad, try to at least space out your words. Try to at least leave space, proper amount of space between your lines. Sometimes I've seen people writing crisscross lines. One line goes up, one line comes down. So don't write like that when you are actually doing this in a say written format. Ketan, I don't think they're going to ask you to write and scan the pages. It is because it's going to be a timed thing, right? So I don't think they're going to include the scanning time and all. They are generally very strict with time. Okay. One more small piece of information or suggestion that I'll give you is, if say there is not a proper clock, it is possible that you have to write the VAT on a particular portal and click on submit. If they tell you time is up, okay, if they say announce and tell you the time is up and it's not a timed portal, submit whatever VAT you have. Don't try to write beyond the time limit thinking that, oh, the submit button is active still, let me just say take more time. Sometimes they have actually refused to collect students' VATs and given them zero. This actually happened to a couple of our students 2 years back in the Lucknow interview. So Lucknow process, what happened was, they had given the VAT for say people to write, and then they said that time is up, and people were actually slowly writing the VATs even after the person said time is up. And then the person, as soon as he saw that few students were still running the pen, they said that I'm not going to collect your VAT. These people had to go and beg those people from the committee to actually take their VATs. They actually refused to take the VAT. So if you have been given a time limit and you have been told that time is up, stop writing immediately and submit. It is better to submit an incomplete VAT than to not submit a VAT at all. Okay, this holds true for even online cases. Javed had actually conducted an AWT session before. I will send you the link for that. Okay, so you watch that video. Get in touch with me after this session now. Okay, all right. So language, and finally comes grammar. Language and grammar is not going to be extremely important, as long as it's not so horrible that whatever you're trying to write, that in itself is not making sense, right? Till then grammar is not important. Okay, but if your grammar is so bad that your sentence construction itself is completely haphazard and does not make any sense, then that is going to be an issue. But of course, great grammatically correct VAT but without any content is not going to get great marks. Does opening statements have phrases have impact? Absolutely not, Trivit. Please, guys, again, statement of purpose, say based instruction. Please don't write quotes to begin off your essay. Please just go straight to the topic and discuss the topic. Relevance of content is extremely important. Okay. Also, I've seen people when they write VATs, they tend to be extremely dramatic and they give weird kind of analogies. We had some kind of a VAT about data security and privacy, and I think someone had written the VAT by comparing data privacy to say running of a scooter. They said data is the petrol of the scooter that makes it run. Scooter is the world, data is the petrol, and then they wrote the entire VAT like that. and I couldn't even understand what was actually written in that particular essay. So please don't go for the dramatic. Please don't try to be different with your content. Keep your language simple, straightforward content you write, and you will actually get through. Okay. So if you're unaware of the topic, how can you manage the bad? Great question, Kashif. So that is what I want to discuss with an example. Okay. What you're going to do, guys, right now is I want all of you right now who are actually say present in this session. Immediately, I want you to open your Microsoft Word. Okay. Open Microsoft Word application, Notepad application, whichever application you have in which you can type. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and then I'm going to give you basic set of instructions. Quickly open that application up. Okay. So I'm going to presume that all of you understood exactly what all things need to be kept in mind while you're writing the VAT. So keeping that in mind, with your Microsoft Word open, I'm going to give you a topic. Okay. I'm going to give you exactly 15 minutes to write a VAT to the best of your ability. Okay. And you don't have to submit it anywhere. Okay. Write it for 15 minutes. Get a feel of how long 15 minutes takes. Get a feel of doing this, jotting down the points, deciding your stance, what are points you're going to write, how you're going to structure the VAT. Do that for the first 2 minutes. Write an essay in the next 13 minutes. And when I say stop writing, just stop writing. Okay. Don't have to submit it anywhere. Keep that particular VAT saved with you. Okay. And I'll tell you then what we will do with that VAT today. Okay. So with your say Microsoft Word and or say writing document opened, the topic for today is Indian industries need protection from Chinese imports. Okay, this is your topic. Okay. So if you know data and statistics, put in data and statistics. If you don't know, try to just write a VAT based on what you have. And I'm going to give you 15 minutes of that for that. Okay. And your time starts now. Okay, so I hope the screen is visible. Screen bottom line. Look at this bottom line. Indian industries need protection from Chinese imports. I hope the topic is visible, right? So Madhumita, the topic is on the screen. Indian industries need protection from the Chinese imports at the bottom of the screen. I hope it's visible. So last 2 minutes, guys. Quickly start concluding. The last 15 seconds. All right, guys, that's time. Time's up. If you have not finished writing yet, just say stop writing, and then keep that VAT with you. Okay, so we are not going to take the VAT from you this time. We are not going to evaluate this VAT. This VAT is for your own reference. What I'm going to do right now is that I'm going to tell you that how I went about writing this particular VAT in say two different ways. So yesterday, what I did as a preparation for this class is that I so took up this topic. So this topic by coincidence is actually not by coincidence, but my plan is this topic was IIM Calcutta's VAT last year. Okay, one of IIM Calcutta's VATs was this. So I took up this topic yesterday and I start with a say stopwatch of 15 minutes. And I wrote two different VATs. One in which I used data and statistics that I knew about the topic. One in which I wrote without having any data and statistics, any GK about the topic, and I tried to construct a VAT in say both these ways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through both these examples with you so that you can have a look at how a VAT can be constructed. Maybe you can take some feedback from this. Look at what you have written. Look at what I have say written here, and then you can compare and contrast and do a bit of self introspection and then see what else you can actually improve upon your writing. Then from next weekend onwards, when we have VAT sessions, then we will be sitting and giving you feedback for your VAT, and how that will be happening I'll tell you at the end of this class, right? So let me first take you through the essay that I wrote for this topic without any kind of data or statistics or GK, just with the basic sense of knowledge what I have about the general surroundings, which I think most of us will have. I'm just going to use that to say construct an essay. So what I did was at the very beginning, I started talking about India's general economic condition, right? Because I felt that if Indian industries are asking for protection, then basically that must be that because they are suffering or they are having some kind of a negative impact because of the presence of Chinese imports, right? So I started off by talking about say the slump over the last 1.5 years, and how towards the end of the 2019 year, say 2019, you might remember that there was an economic slowdown which was actually talked about quite a lot, and especially people are talking about the automotive sector suffering a lot. And then I compared that to China, which has actually been a global rising power, and then how their say economy is actually thriving, and they are having several different cheap commodity products which are making the way into the Indian markets, and how the Indian markets are suffering as a result. So what I did in the first paragraph as an introduction is I actually brought about the need or the reason why this topic has been given. So although this topic does not need any say kind of explanation or definition, right? It is written in some simple language. Indian industries need protection from Chinese imports. So I started off with why. What are the possible reasons why this is being suggested by the topic, right? So that is how I constructed an introduction for this without any data and statistics, as you can see. Then what I did was I went on to the body, right? And I started talking about that whether say protection is actually required, and if protection is required, then what kind of protection is required and why. So in this second paragraph, what I did was I wrote about why is there a major demands for Chinese products, and I particularly pointed out the tech sector. Why? Because all of us can say tech sector, no, because what comes to our mind as soon as we say think of Chinese products. Can someone tell me what comes to your mind? Chinese company, absolutely correct, Ashish. Redmi, Xiaomi, Oppo, all the phone companies, right? So that is what I also went by, because general say consensus, right? So tech sector is what actually picked up, and I thought even say TV companies, appliances, all of this is what actually has invaded our Chinese market. So I used general sense of awareness, and I said that all these have become say part of our market, and how Indian brands are finding it difficult to compete with, right? So if I take phones, can you tell me one Indian smartphone company? Micromax, Carbon. Okay. How many of you will buy? Motorola is not Indian at all, Utkarsh. Um, uh, yeah. So see, there is Cellcon, there is Lava, there is Micromax, but who actually goes and buys, right? So everyone is going to buy Redmi, Xiaomi, or even Samsung, OnePlus, Apple, but no one buys these. So I said that Indian like companies are actually suffering because of this. Also because if I look at a Micromax mobile of the same specs, number one, it is going to be more expensive than say Redmi. Number two, I also feel that these Indian companies rebrand Chinese cell phones and sell. Sometimes they do that. Sometimes what happens is, even if the phones are produced completely indigenously, their say quality is lesser, and their say price is higher. So I said that they're actually finding it difficult to compete with lower price Chinese products with say better specs. Indian economy has to be lifted, then these companies have to be given a level playing field, right? Because if the consumers have got a cheaper, better option, why will they buy phones of Indian make? So then what can the government do? Then the government can issue say policies like increasing trade duties, and say that is going to cause an increase in price of the Chinese products, and that way Indian companies can actually say compete with them. If the price becomes similar, maybe the consumers will then start thinking about, instead of Redmi, let me try Carbon once and see if it works, right? And then I talked about how this kind of protectionist policies, this kind of security against Chinese imports, is going to have a long running effect. So I'm writing for the topic here, and I said that the increase in revenue of Indian companies will help these firms go encourage research and development in the respective sectors, right? Because if say I start buying Carbon mobile phones, they are going to have more money. Maybe they will go back to their say table, and they will do some kind of R&D work and then produce better phones. So which means that if they say start producing better phones, maybe some kind of foreign investor or angel investor is going to put money to like in those companies, and then that is going to create a domino effect, which is going to cause an increase in the economic health and GDP of the country as a whole. So I'm saying that this kind of protectionist policy can actually cause a lot of positives. So because of which I believe that Indian history, for our own domestic industries to thrive, the government needs to step in and enforce required protection for Indian companies against Chinese imports. So I have defended my point, right? I have made a point and I've defended it, saying that this is why Indian companies need to, or the say, government of India needs to provide protection against Chinese imports. Right? So I have defended it very well in the body. Now what do? I come to the conclusion, and in the conclusion, what I did was I could actually think about several points for the counter stance, which actually made a lot of sense. So I thought that I should not let those points go away. So I should probably mention it somewhere so that they can know that I can think about this topic critically. So I wrote about, while some amount of protectionism is necessary from the government, but I also talked about citizens' responsibilities, right? If we don't want, say, Chinese products to be sold a lot inside the country, and we want Indian products to be sold, number one, what is the responsibility going to be? The responsibility is going to be with, say, major Indian firms. So if say tomorrow Reliance, tomorrow Mukesh Ambani decides that I am going to, um, so can there be an against the topic? Yes, absolutely correct, Utkarsh. So say that's what I'm say writing here. I can say that government should not actually put up any kind of protection against Chinese imports. Let the Chinese imports come. It is a responsibility of the Indian market to actually say decide or make the customers say buy for their products. So that's what I've written in the last paragraph. That say if tomorrow Mukesh Ambani decides that I'm going to make a mobile phone which is going to be better than OnePlus at a lower price, who's going to stop him? He has got that So that much amount of money, and you can easily compete against all these Chinese brands, right? So then they need to start heavily investing in say, research and development, and then produce better phones. They need to foster an environment to produce products of superior quality against which Chinese imports will say find it hard to compete, right? And what else can we do? Say our own industries can actually decide to procure even raw materials for the finished products locally rather than importing it from say somewhere outside. It might be a bit difficult for them, but it is easier for bigger companies to make switches and have and take a slight hit on their revenue to begin with, if it is going to cause an increase in sales and if it is going to cause a decrease in sales of the Chinese products, right? So that is something that I wrote about, that even the responsibility lies with the say domestic companies as well. And then I also wrote about the fact that there is some amount of responsibility that actually lies with the consumer. That if we are faced with a couple of options, right? If I'm say trying to buy something from the market, then what can I do? I can actually decide to check that apart from the Chinese counterparts, if there is anything else which is actually Indian, which is actually available. So then I can do my research and choose to buy Indian products, even if it is slightly more expensive or slightly more difficult for me to procure. Right? Have the money and can invest in R&D, but will be small scale ones that need more support. You can part. This is just like just a sense of an example. Whatever points have like you have made, sit and think about whether those make sense or not, or if you want to take say something from this say topic or not, right? Yes, you can Shakti, you can absolutely do that. That is what I would generally suggest people to do. I just went in a different direction to show that I can also write it like this. There's say nothing wrong with this way of constructing the VAT either, right? So if you look at this VAT now, right, it has decent points, right? I've made my points for the topic, and I have taken the stance, and I've actually defended it. So Ashish, this is my conclusion, right? This is my conclusion, right? So I have taken a stance and defended, and then I said that some amount of protectionism is necessary from the government, but the counterpoint that no protectionism is not necessary also has got certain merits, and these are the merits for that. So I can just conclude it like this. So this is what I wrote in 15 minutes, and as I said, it has got both for and against points. My stance becomes clear that I've written in the body that I believe that protectionism is necessary, and that is what I mentioned as the first line of the conclusion as well. And without data, statistics, and GK also, without mentioning any products, any import values and statistics, I have still written a VAT, which kind of makes sense and will help me get an above average score. Right? Utkarsh, I just told you what all things we are actually evaluated on at say before you started writing this VAT. Please go back and watch the recording of this video if you have missed that. Okay. So now that was the VAT which I wrote without using knowledge of data and statistics. Now let me show you how a better VAT will look. If you have data, statistics in GK and good knowledge of current affairs, how will the data look, the VAT look like, and how much more effective it sounds. Okay. So this is the VAT which I wrote with stats and GK. So if you look at this, I started off by showing off my knowledge of this particular topic, right? I wrote that India imports commodities more than 4 times in net worth from China, um, uh, as compared to its exports to the country. So if you know, if you don't know, then you can make a note of it. India actually last year it exported goods worth $18 billion USD to China, but in return it actually I think imported about 76 billion US dollars worth goods from China. Okay, so more than 4 times, right? 18 fours are 72, so more than 72. Yes, Ashi, $55 billion trade deficit. Right? Yes, Moinak, of course. See, Moinak, again, this was subjective. No, I'm talking about how you can actually use data and statistics, right? What if you are not sure about the stat? So then you should not mention the stat. That is why I told you, if you don't have statistics and data, you can actually go and say write the VAT that I wrote before. If you know data and statistics, show it off, right? So I started off by showing that I have a good amount of knowledge about imports and exports, right? And then I also know what we actually export to China, right? Our predominant exports have been industrial raw materials like cotton, copper, and natural gems, whereas our imports from China have ranged from heavy machinery, power-related equipment, telecom equipment, to chemicals and fertilizers. So what we can see is actually China is actually getting raw materials from us, and in return they are actually giving us a lot of finished products, right? So because of which our end consumer is buying Chinese products. So that's why I've written that hence there has been a rising demand from our domestic industries for protection against Chinese imports. Right. So because our market is getting flooded with Chinese products, so that's why people are asking for protection against Chinese imports. So that's how I have actually introduced the topic by giving statistics as to exactly why this discussion is relevant. Then I went on to the body in the body of this essay. I did not burden it with a lot of statistics and data because I feel that the next paragraph needs to be my points. I need to defend my stance. So here, if I just keep on throwing in data and statistics completely, then my stance gets somewhere obscured in the entire process. So don't let that happen. Okay, make sure that your stance and your points are coming out in a very coherent fashion, that how are you defending your point of view. So I have again gone back to the same points that I made in the previous essay, that China has been one of the fastest growing economic powers in the world over in the last decade. Their government's aggressive industrial policy to mine raw materials and produce goods in surplus, this is what actually China is doing. You can actually read about it. This is also part of current affairs. They actually are completely depleting their metal resources, and they're producing iron, steel, and so many other commodities, much more than what they can consume. So when you have got high demand, what is going to happen to the price? I think Vibin sir must have taught you. When you've got high supply, what's going to say happen to the price of the product? Absolutely correct, Swanedeep. It is going to reduce. Right? Supply high, low price. That's what China is doing. Right? And then what else is actually causing low price? Their huge population of trained population. Right? They have got a lot of supply of manual labor who can actually work in these factories of theirs, and they've got really lax labor laws. Their labor laws are nowhere close to being as stringent as us. Actually, ours is not stringent, but ours is humanitarian. Theirs is not. So they can make their laborers work extremely cheaply. They only have to worry about the manufacturing process and not worry much about the nature of the labor that they're actually using. Right? And consumers world over are actually attracted to these affordable options, and the Indian diaspora is no different in this respect. So I've again said that how there is a necessity to bring about protection against Chinese products. So I've made my point as to what all disadvantages are there, because of which Indian companies are actually asking for say protection. Right? So this will positively impact the country, and I've written the same thing, that how it is going to help us if we have say protection against Chinese imports. So I've said that why this demand makes sense, and what is going to be the positives of having this particular protectionist policy with us. So I have defended my stance in the body. And then what I did in the last paragraph was, I once again decided that, okay, now I have a lot more data and statistics that I can actually put in relevant to this particular topic. So I wrote a big conclusion. And what I've written is, I've started off with a few say data and statistics points which I could not fit into my body. So I wrote that how in the period of April to August, we have actually halved our imports from China. So we have gone from $22.6 billion last year to only $12.6 billion this year. So many believe, can you put stats in the? You can put stats anywhere, Utkarsh. Wherever there is stats relevant, you can put it. Right. So then I wrote that many believe that this has been a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent economic slowdown. This is actually a particular article that I wrote that I read from a Chinese website a few days back. So I actually quoted that. Right. So these things I mentioned here because I have read this, so I wanted to show off my knowledge here again. And then I went back to talking about the counter stance, right? That rather than depending on government mandated policies, which is going to disrupt the essence of capitalism, right? So when you put a curb on the free market, you're actually disrupting capitalism, and you're slowly going towards communism in a certain sense. So instead of doing that, we should be working on, like, from our side also, to make our products cheaper. So the same kind of conclusion that I had written in the previous VAT. Right? So the only difference between the old VAT and the new VAT is the structure was same, the points were same. But what will make this VAT definitely better than the last one are all these data points and statistics. This is going to easily fetch, at least I would say, 10%, at least 10% more points than the previous part. Say VAT that I have written without any data and statistics. So this is why knowledge of stats and current affairs is extremely important. If you have a WAT, then knowledge of current affairs can help elevate your VAT to the next level. And as I've said before, even if the college that you are having a call for is not going to have a WAT section, these data and statistics, if say someone asks you this particular question, that say China has been in the conversation for so long, right? So if the conversation goes towards India's current say situation of say companies within India, you can actually quote all these, and that can help you um, say give out much better answers even during a personal interview. Utkarsh, that's why we are here, to help you prepare for VAT. That's what I've been telling you. We're going to have VAT sessions every week just for your practice. Okay. Sir, could we partly agree to the topic and then substantiate it? That's precisely what I have done here, right? So healthy. Exactly what I've done here. I partly agree with it. Maybe some amount of protectionism is necessary, but some amount of it also lies on the hands of the Indian citizens. If they want to make their companies and industries better, then we have to also start putting in an effort from our side, not just put trade duties and tariffs on the Chinese imports, right? So this is how I would write a VAT, right, in this particular topic. I'm not saying that this is an absolutely great VAT or something like that, but you can take pointers from it to understand what you could have done better, what you could have done differently. So Shirajit, that's called preparation, right? If you prepare, then you will remember. If you don't, then you don't. So that is why the interview preparation and PDP program is necessary. So we will be covering a wide variety of VAT topics across the VAT classes that we will be conducting. We'll try to conduct 2 classes every weekend with 2 + 2, four topics. Okay, so please don't miss the VAT sessions. Those are extremely important. Okay, now what we are going to do is um, we are going to also give you feedback on your VATs. But let me tell you right now that I'm going to give you feedback on only 3 VATs. Okay, 3 VATs, we are going to give you detailed feedback as to how you can make your VATs better. After that, what we are going to be doing is we are going to be giving you topics. You have to draft them. Then we will discuss what other points we can actually write inside that particular topic and give you proper knowledge of current affairs with respect to those topics. Okay. So 3 VATs we are going to evaluate, and then we will let you know which mail ID you need to send the VATs to. What you'll be doing this weekend is we'll say start with the VAT classes, and we'll give you say 2 topics to write the VAT, and then send it to us, right? And how you're going to send it and to which mail ID you're going to send it, we'll say confirm all of that before the next class this weekend. If say your friends or some of whom you know are going to come to the class this weekend without actually looking at the video of this class, then we are not going to help them out. Okay, so please make sure that everyone watches this particular video. If someone asks you that how to write a VAT, please direct them to this class and ask them to watch it before. Okay, so as long as we can justify both sides, provide concrete points, um, and not seem confused between for and against, it is fine to speak for both sides. Absolutely right path, but there needs to be a dominant side. You need to say that yes, I agree with this partially, or I disagree with this partially. Which side do you agree with more? That needs to come out absolutely crystal clear. Okay, what else? What if the topic is regarding religious affairs and the person correcting it paper belonged? So then don't write something offensive, write something rational. No, so they are going to have opposite opinions always. In say suppose if it's not a bad topic, if it is an interview, they are going to disagree with your stance. It is about how rationally you can defend it. You should not be defending your stance emotionally. If you have rational points to say defend your stance, why are you so worried? That is what they're actually judging through a VAT, that you have got sensible reasons to believe in the stance that you are taking up. They are not going to reduce your marks because of the stance. They are going to look at whether you can defend your stance or not. Right. So this is what I wanted to convey through this session. What I'll do is I will share both these VATs as a PDF on your Telegram group. Okay. You can actually download the VATs, read them once again, and then look at what you have written. Do a bit of self introspection, and then this weekend onwards, we'll kickstart our regular VAT sessions. Right. So that's it for today's class. So thank you everyone for coming, and good night. Take care.